Thanks for turning into our YouTube channel. In this video we are going to talk about top 10 scariest serial killers. So before starting this video, like this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future updates. Strictly speaking, a serial killer is someone who murders at least two people in separate events that occur at different times. While serial murder is not formalized by any legal code, the crimes of serial killers have often been seized on by the media and the public consciousness, especially in cases where there are many victims or the murders are carried out in gruesome fashion. The following list explores some of the most notorious serial killers the world has ever known. Sexual assault, robbery, cannibalism, and of course, murder. The following 10 men are the most scariest serial killers of all time. Number 10. Ted Bundy. You don't have to be American or have been around in the 1970s to know the name Ted Bundy. He loved the attention his murders garnered him, and many in the United States were more than happy to give him that attention. The western US was his hunting ground, with an unknown number of murders piling up, mostly college-age women, from Washington and Oregon all the way to Utah and Colorado. Bundy was once arrested in Colorado and convicted of kidnapping, but he escaped custody, moving to Florida where he killed multiple times more. Bundy's final arrest and its aftermath captured the attention of the nation, as the accused murderer acted as his own lawyer during what is believed to have been the first televised murder trial, welcomed interviews, and boasted of the fans he had created. He was eventually executed in an electric chair in 1989. Bundy is easily one of the most deranged serial killers, not to mention kidnappers, rapists, burglars, and necrophiles, of all time. His sick modus operandi included kidnapping his female victims, raping them, and then dismembering them. He often kept their heads as souvenirs. Before he was executed in 1989, Bundy admitted to kidnapping and murdering 30 women, though this number is almost certainly much higher. Number 9. Andrei Chikatilo. Between 1978 and 1990, the Russian serial killer Andrei Chikatilo sexually assaulted, murdered, and mutilated more than 50 young women and children. One of the youngest was 9 years old. The deranged Chikatilo killed his victims by stabbing and slashing them with a knife. Chikatilo later admitted that he was only able to achieve orgasm by stabbing women, a fact which made it difficult for him to resist his strong urges to kill. Chikatilo was nicknamed the Butcher of Rostov, the Red Ripper, and the Rostov Ripper. Though he confessed to a total of 56 brutal murders, he was tried for 53, sentenced to death, and executed by firing squad in 1994. Number 8. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer started killing in 1978, just 18 years old, and wasn't arrested for murder until 1991, after a would-be victim escaped and led police back to Dahmer's Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home. It was there that some of the gruesome details of his life of killing were seen, via photos of mutilated bodies and body parts strewn across the apartment. He even had a vat of acid he used to dispose of victims. No list of the most deranged serial killers would be complete without Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer, known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, was ultimately convicted of murdering 17 young men over a 14-year period. But Dahmer didn't just murder them. He also raped, dismembered, and sometimes even ate his victims. During his trial, Dahmer admitted to drilling a hole into his victims' heads, in an attempt to turn them into mindless sex slaves. Although Dahmer certainly would have been executed for his deranged crimes, he was beaten to death in prison in 1994. If you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to hit that like button. Number 7. Albert Fish. When a serial killer is dubbed the Brooklyn Vampire, the Moon Maniac, the Werewolf of Wisteria, the Gray Man, and the Boogeyman, it's almost certain he is thoroughly deranged. Fish was tried and found guilty of raping, killing, and cannibalizing 3 children in the early 1900s. However, he claimed that he had murdered more like 100 children, and even boasted that he had children in every state. Especially deranged is the fact that Fish sent a letter to the mother of one of his victims, 10-year-old Grace Budd. The letter detailed how he had lured the little girl, strangled her, and then cut her into pieces to eat over the course of 9 days. Number 6. John Wayne Gacy. A construction worker known by his suburban neighbors as outgoing, John Wayne Gacy was involved in politics and even acted as a clown for birthday parties. He was no clown. Gacy came under suspicion in 1978 when a 15-year-old boy, last seen with him, went missing. That wasn't the only time families of missing boys had pointed fingers at Gacy, but it was the authorities took them seriously. Soon after, a search warrant granted police access to the Gacy home, with the smell of nearly 30 bodies buried in a 4-foot crawl space under his home. He was convicted of 33 counts of murder, with additional counts of rape and torture, and was executed by lethal injection in 1994. There's deranged, and then there's the type of deranged that describes the serial killer John Wayne Gacy. He was nicknamed Killer Clown because of his job attending children's birthday parties and charitable events as Pogo the Clown. Gacy was convicted of raping, torturing, and murdering 33 teenage boys over a 6-year period. He would lure them to his home, kill them via either strangulation or asphyxiation, then bury them on his property. Gacy was executed in May 1994. Number 5. Jack the Ripper. We call him Jack the Ripper, but we don't really know who the person behind one of the older and most notorious murder sprees was. The killer appeared in London's Whitechapel district in 1888 and murdered 5 women, all prostitutes, and mutilated their corpses. Police surmised the killer was a surgeon, butcher, or someone skilled with a scalpel. Jack the Ripper may be a name that everyone knows, but no one can be certain of his true identity. Whoever he, or she, really was, Jack the Ripper was definitely deranged. In 1888, Jack terrorized the Whitechapel neighborhood of London by slitting the throats and abdomens of at least 5 prostitutes and leaving them for dead. Sometimes, he would even remove the woman's uterus and take it as a sort of prize. It's unlikely Jack the Ripper's true identity will ever be figured out, but Ripperology, the study and analysis of the murders, has certainly inspired quite a few what-if novels and films. Number 4. Joachim Kroll. German serial killer Joachim Kroll murdered at least 14 people, including young children, between 1955 and 1976. After strangling his victims with his bare hands, Kroll would have sex with their corpses, then cut them up in pieces to eat. Interestingly, Kroll was finally caught after a neighbor complained about a backup in the plumbing. The pipes were clogged with human guts. When Kroll was arrested, he was in the process of simmering body parts taken from his most recent victim, 4-year-old Marion Ketter. Number 3. Pedro Lopez. One of the world's most prolific serial killers might still be out there. Pedro Lopez is linked to more than 300 murders in his native Colombia and in Ecuador and Peru. At least 1/3 of those murders were tribal women. After Lopez's arrest in 1980, police found the graves of more than 50 of his preteen victims. He was later convicted of murdering 110 girls in Ecuador, and confessed to 240 more murders in Colombia and Peru. The monster of the Andes didn't even spend 20 years in prison, as he was released in 1998 for good behavior. More than 20 years since, his whereabouts remain unknown. Pedro Lopez's deranged killing spree is terrifying enough, but perhaps even more terrifying is the fact that Lopez's current whereabouts are unknown. The Colombian claims to have raped and killed more than 300 women across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. At least 100 of these were tribal women. In 1980, the monster of the Andes was arrested, and led police to the graves of 53 victims between the ages of 9 and 12. Lopez was found guilty of murdering 110 girls in Ecuador. He also confessed to an additional 240 murders in Peru and Colombia, and was declared insane. Number 2. Gilles de Rais. Gilles de Rais was a wealthy knight and lord, a leader in the French army, and a companion in arms to Joan of Arc. He was also a totally deranged serial killer. Between 1432 and 1433, Gilles reportedly sodomized, and then murdered, or ordered the murder, of at least 40 children. Many naked bodies of young boys were found at his estate in 1437. A 1971 biography of de Rais describes the way the knight lured the boys to their deaths. He outfitted them in fancy clothing, provided them with a large meal and lots of wine. Finally, he confronted each boy with the true nature of his situation. Number 1. Richard Ramirez. For more than a year during the 1980s, Richard Ramirez terrorized neighborhoods throughout Los Angeles. Nicknamed Night Stalker, Ramirez would break into homes and brutally murder his victims, sometimes raping them first. His victims ranged from early 20s to a 79-year-old woman. His weapons of choice included handguns, knives, a tire iron, a machete, and even a hammer. Ramirez never expressed any remorse for his crimes. He was sentenced to death but died of lymphoma before he could be executed. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought about this video, and which other top 10 videos you would like to see next on this YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from us again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.